Mhm.
It's episode 345 of The Platformers, a show about games and nerd culture, and I am your host, Brian Barnett.
One vision, one purpose. I'm Kris Cornelius.
What's up? I am Will Berger, and I'm mostly happy to be here.
That is a load bearing mostly.
Lucas White, and I'm still not surprised a John Cena world title match had a disappointing ending.
Damn. He's spitting, though.
I'm Jarrett Green, and the Summer of Punk is actually John Cena's retirement tour. We love to see it.
Nice. Anyways, Jarrett, thank you so much for joining us again this week. It's always lovely to have you on the show. For those who don't know you, where might they have seen your great works and trembled?
If you've ever traipsed through the Pine Barrens on a 68 crisp degree night into the woods and felt the cold breeze off a blue hole, that's probably where you found my writing. Otherwise, the Imagine Games Network, the kids call it IGN. That is usually where you'll find all my freelance stuff. Also, publisher, editor of a zine called Life Bar, which I typed nothing up formally about. Plan to spring it on everyone tomorrow, but is coming back.
Hell yeah.
4 packs.
Love to see it.
Eyeballs open for that.
Very nice.
Inbox open for that. I'm gonna pitch your ass.
Very nice, very nice. All right, well, we got a lot of stuff to get into this week. Will, would you like to start us off with kind of the topic du jour?
The hot topic, if you will.
The hot topic. The Adventure Time t-shirt of the now. Which is, in some ways, to degrade your work, which is not intentional because I love Adventure Time.
All right.
Do we need to drop more hints?
I'm assuming that what Brian has awkwardly asked me to discuss is Fatal Fury.
Yes.
The Wolves. Okay. The embargo for that ended today. You can find my review over on digitaltrends.com. It has since gone semi-viral on Blue Sky. And I am a little disappointed in some of my peers for not addressing the elephant in the room. So before I get to that, I guess I will say why that is. Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is a great fighting game. It's SNK. They're very good at this. They've been doing it for a very long time.
It's true, they have.
This is a game. This game is a sequel to a game that came out 26 years ago.
God, I'm old.
Garo, Mark of the Wolves, one of the greatest fighting games ever made. A sequel so long awaited that we kind of just figured it would never happen, and then it did happen. And it's really good. The problem is that SNK, in the intervening years, has been acquired by the Saudi Arabian Public
Investment Fund.
Public Investment Fund, yeah. And a few years ago, they were like, it's not a big deal. We have complete creative freedom. We can do whatever we want. And for a while, that seemed to be true. And then City of the Wolves, after spending months building up goodwill and showing the game and letting people play the game, announced that they would put in football star Cristiano Ronaldo and DJ Salvatore Ganacci as guest characters. And this would be odd regardless, because real people in fighting games is not a thing that happens by and large, right? Like, you can have guest characters, Ezio's and fucking Soul Calibur, Negan from The Walking Dead is in Tekken. Like, guest characters are fine. Capcom and SNK in particular have a long history of trading guest characters. If you know anything about the genre, you know how iconic it was when Ken threw Terry his hat
Which they then did in reverse when Terry was in SF6.
Yes. Nothing wrong with guest characters. The problem with these guest characters is that they are there for the sole reason, it seems to be to anybody with eyes to see and ears to hear, because they are tight with the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince. Cristiano Ronaldo plays for Al Nassr, which is a Saudi Arabian soccer team, which has made him one of the highest paid athletes in the world. He's become an ambassador for the country in a lot of ways. And Ganache is a DJ that nobody has heard of, but again, he is tight with the Saudi Crown Prince. And there's a problem with this because SNK's creative freedom is clearly not a thing anymore. Or at least I would be shocked if it was. I can't imagine that this is what they wanted to spend development money on. And B, the Cristiano Ronaldo, which is really the problem character here. Like, Ganache at least contributed music to the game. He worked on the game. If he wants to be a guest character, whatever, I don't care that much. I still think it's weird. Ronaldo is the problem, because Ronaldo was credibly accused of raping a woman in 2009. And leaked documents were reported by Der Spiegel, which is a German news outlet, basically has him admitting to it. And the reason, almost guaranteed, that he is in that game is because this story has become public again, because the woman who has accused him credibly of raping her brought the case back into court. And she lost. She lost on a technicality that her lawyer had obtained evidence illegally that would have kept him from getting a fair trial. Or so the court ruled. I don't know. Connect the dots, right? This is sports washing. This is video game washing. This is whatever you want to call it, and it's disgusting. It's gross. No Fatal Fury fan wants this. Nobody asked for this. This is a character on the main roster. This is not a DLC character you can avoid having in the game. Every time I go to character select, I'm looking at a guy who's been credibly accused of rape. I'm looking at him there because he's boys with the Saudi Crown Prince. And
it's an unavoidable blemish. There's no two ways about it.
I think the word I would use would be a stain. It's a stain on SNK. It's a stain on Fatal Fury. And I wrote about it for Digital Trends, and the review has since gone semi-viral. And this is one of those things where for the last few years, Saudi Arabia has been trying to, use its money to improve its public image, right? Whether it is hosting the Esports World Cup, whether it is buying SNK, or doing a ton of other things outside of video games, right? This money is being spent to try to make everybody forget that Saudi Arabia as a nation has done some pretty despicable things. And to have this happen to a game that people have been waiting for 26 years, that has, from a developer that has a very long and storied history in this medium, is one of the most important developers in its genre. And to have it withheld basically until the last minute before the game was released is, put two and two together, it looks a certain. Yeah. And I think what concerns me the most is that Saudi Arabia has spent all this time and money and effort trying to kind of ingratiate itself. Actually, ingratiate is the wrong word. Trying to buy itself into the FGC with the Esports World Cup and by owning SNK and a number of other things. And the problem with this, as anybody who's into fighting games will tell you, is that the FGC was built by the FGC. It was not built by corporations. It was not built by sponsors. And it certainly wasn't built by the fucking Saudi Public Investment Fund. It was built by us. I say us because I consider myself a member of that community. It is ours. For a long time, nobody wanted anything to do with it. The only reason it's here is because we made it here. And what bothers me about this, and what bothers me about the way this is being covered, is a lot of the reviews and a lot of the coverage of this are not mentioning any of these things, or they are not mentioning them to a state that I find to be honest and forthright and forthcoming and critical, the way we are supposed to be critical of things when we do criticism as critics, the thing that we are paid to do. And I find that really disheartening and extremely upsetting because some people just genuinely don't know, right? Who would make different purchasing decisions if they did know what was going on. But I know this because people have told me after reading what I wrote that it had changed their mind. And so they are hoping that this is just gonna, nobody's gonna notice, though people will buy it because, hey, big football star, right? Yeah. Just why not? And this is one of those moments where you either believe in things or you don't. And this is very minor. This is a game, right? In the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. But if you can't even be right on this, it makes me think you're going to be right on something bigger than this. This costs you nothing to be right on. And, everybody has a price even for the things they hope never to sell.
Great line.
And I am seeing a lot of people tell us very loudly what their price is, and it isn't very high. It's I want fun thing.
I think it's very
review good and a few bucks.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's very appropriate that line that you quoted is said by a member of the Dutch East India Trading Company, which is like very appropriate.
Yep. It's also the last two lines in the review that I wrote. Everybody has a price. What's yours? Yep. You got to decide. And the way that this has been covered by peers in this industry is dismaying to me in ways that it is really difficult to put into words. This is one of those, for me especially, put your money where your mouth is. I've been saying for years that we deserve better criticism. And this is one of those put up or shut up times, I think. So either you believe in it or you don't. And I learned today that a lot of people don't. So Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is a great game. And I don't blame anybody who wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So that's
the PIF is a funny thing because sort of a byproduct of its actual goal is laundering its image. What it wants to do is divest itself from oil.
Yeah.
Because the writing's on the wall for everyone, including OPEC. In fact, OPEC would know because they control most of the oil that's not made in North America, basically. All the rest of it comes from them. So how can we invest our influence in a very United States sort of way everywhere else in hopes to create both a return and then also create the kind of business relationship that maybe spreads the difference between the PIF and say like USAID on our end is that we are trying to spread, a particular version of democracy when we send, a crate full of hundreds to a country for no particular reason. They are trying to maybe get, a return on investment in a soccer team over here, or a video game company over there, or a golf league over there, or I don't know, some water treatment plants in Africa or whatever. But they also know that once you're paying for things, you can kind of do whatever you want. People stop talking about you a particular way once you're paying for all this shit. Not even directly. They don't have to threaten you. MBS will threaten you. They've literally done it. Wasn't that long ago when they were taking Jamal Khashoggi out of the building in briefcases. But they don't have to do that anymore. They realize if we just pay for everything, people won't even look at us. Case in point, we are 2 days removed from WrestleMania that had a SNK City of the Wolves logo in the middle of the ring for 2 days. That DJ, whose name I don't know because no one knows who he is, played a set on stage before, like in between matches. The WWE has had a long, troubling history with, not even that long, like a 8 or 9 year history with the Saudi Arabian government that has been troubling every step of the way. The UFC, the other side of TKO, has had that relationship for longer and far more troubling. They have dates and events in Rydia, and even when it's something as obvious as a wrestling match in Rydia, where all the women suddenly have to dress differently, and you can't say X, Y, or Z like you would say if you were in New Jersey or whatever, we've all come to, I guess, we've come to the conclusion that this is just how it has to be. So why say it every time? Because we know it, right? When we see it happen, it's because we know why it happened. So people stop talking about why it happened. And that, as your kind of review alluded to, is where the bad things happen.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about not playing this game or boycotting this game. And maybe it is. Maybe it is don't spend the $60 because you know where it's going. But more importantly, from a consumer side, from a guy down here side, you really can't do anything. You paying $60 is not stopping whatever has happened.
No.
It doesn't. The best you can do is enjoy this thing, but also don't get lulled into not talking about the thing. Mm-hmm. There is like a relationship between the guy who is like, you don't want to be the good guy who is so vigilant that he has to remind everyone every single time that he is the sinner, he is guilty, and he repents for turning on Peacock and watching Monday Night Raw every time he does it every week. That makes you annoying. But it is important that when things like this happens, when a convicted rapist, or not a convicted rapist because he wasn't convicted, but an admitted rapist, alleged rapist who more or less admitted it to a paper in order as part of like the settlement, suddenly is, you know, a high marquee selling point to this giant game. It's very important that someone draws these lines. It's very important that you're receptive to drawing the lines as a consumer, that you don't take the drawing of these lines personally. And it's very important that if you are the select few people whose job it is who talk about these things at a more critical level, that you do so. We're not asking, no one asked Will to break down the complicated socioeconomic relationships between the Middle East and the rest of the world over the past 60 years that kind of got us to this place. But I really, no one really had to ask, no one's asking Will to do much more than draw the line. You didn't have to make a moral judgment about it. But I think it's important to say, by the way, the PAF paid for this. Cristiano Ronaldo is one of MBS's like close personal friends. Also, interesting that he kind of avoided any consequence for this thing that seems very obvious that he did. Just gotta say it sometimes. People were saying, like, people got really upset when people did this to Kobe in like 2008 or whatever. But like, it's important to say because he is rich enough for this to go away if people stop talking about it.
Yeah.
In the same way, memories exist when people go away and you carry their memory with you. You have to do that with the bad stuff they want to wash away too, especially today when it's like really easy to wash that stuff away.
Super easy.
No one's saying that Evo next year won't be super lit, but it is important that the top 8 know what's happening here. If they're sitting in the presence of MBS fighting over $1 million prize, it's very important they know how they got here and how crazy that looks a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, you know, I am always a person that's like I don't necessarily want everyone talking about these things. I don't think everyone can. I think sometimes it would be nice if you're like the podcast guy who's just, I just want to, pop jokes and, get these bits off. Some people, that's all I expect from you. But it can't be all of us. Someone's got to get better. And it's always disappointing when it's like, when the ratio of people trying to do better gets smaller and smaller every time something like this happens.
Yeah. And when you see the people who are equipped to do this kind of thing,
right,
they would kind of expect it from, and then they just don't do it at all.
Yeah,
that's when you notice.
Yeah.
The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.
Nothing.
Yep. And there's also not really a reward. There's no incentive for doing this. It's just, as Will and I were talking about, it's the job. And if you take the job seriously, then that's what it is. You're not going to cozy up to a mega wealthy. Oh wait, hold on. I'm quiet. What, me?
Never.
All right, hold on.
Unbelievable.
You sound fine in the Discord. I don't know how it is in the Twitch, but
yeah, hold on. Let me. Oh,
to piggyback off this while you sort that out, there's an obvious thing here. It's like, even if this wasn't a problematic individual with alleged, situations or whatever, it'd still be weird to just include real people in a fighting game like this. Just, it just immediately takes out, the creative integrity, but the creative vision of this fictional setting is suddenly spoiled when you suddenly blur the lines of real people. And then it's like, well, this is kind of weird, isn't it? Should we expect to see Terry Bogard walk down the streets and so on? It's just, it feels odd, and it never comes across well. It just, dilutes the setting, as it were. And then you add in, the allegations and all the funding back and forth and everything like that. It just becomes even messier. And then it becomes messier still when, as Will says, the FGC is, like all, good movements and things like that, was not built on money. It was built on people. It was built on, people who were interested in this, in fighting games, who built a community out of that, and money is now just trying to seep in now that they see that there is people and something worth there. Try to muscle in on it. And that becomes especially bad when you consider that the FGC is notoriously protective of its people, including minorities.
Yeah.
Minorities which the Saudis do not care for.
Yeah,
the women closing.
Extremely queer and extremely not white.
Yeah, this was one of the things that you wrote that I was going to bring up, which is like specifically with the Ronaldo thing. Like you pointed out the thing with infiltration and Tempest, which is just like the FGC ejects these people from it. Like they don't let them stay.
For the most part, infiltration has been notoriously difficult to eject for some reason.
It's true.
At least yes, but he also is not competing anymore.
That's true.
He still has a platform, but he's not allowed at any major.
That's true.
So
the Smash Bros. Community was famously eviscerated at one point.
Yeah.
Right, all the people they kicked out at one time.
And it's the extremely ironic thing that I think that Kris pointed out is, given like who makes up the FGC and how this community was built, because it was not built by rich people. It was not built by rich kids. It was built by people who were, again,
it was grassroots.
Grassroots, largely not white, and especially in more recent years, extremely queer. And it's really interesting, not even interesting, it's ironic that a government that is known for its horrific treatment of queer people is trying to buy its way into this place.
I mean, the darkest reading of that is it's on purpose, because that's how they can exert their control and influence on a place in a way that would kind of try to conform it into their own image. That's like the darkest reading of that. But
I mean, and whether or not that is intentional, it is what happens.
Yeah.
Every year at the Esports World Cup, there are people who are like, I cannot compete here.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not going to Saudi Arabia. Who can blame them?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I don't think it feels far more purposeful when they pull those things to them, right? When you're spending Saudi money to express something over here, it's different. When I guess at the time, the Saudi investment fund didn't have such a position as it did in Tencent now. But when Tencent owned Fanbyte, that website was full of gay brown people. Like, they're clearly not publishing from Rydia, but the line can be drawn to a place none of those people would actually want to visit in real life.
Yeah.
And it's the hubris of the Saudi prince and the royal family that like all big events have to happen, under their watch and in their shadow. That makes something like this more untenable than it should be, right?
Yeah.
Like you could ignore it if they were just sponsoring Evo or making an Evo competitor that was also going to be in Las Vegas.
Because the worst they can do then is just pull funding. But that's not the worst they can do when it's there.
Right. And especially if they can if some people decide to be brave and go, like this in a country notorious for just doing whatever they want, regardless of like the actual political ramifications of such. Like, especially, today and for the next 4 years, can they trust that our government would protect them from a distance? I wouldn't.
No. Yeah.
No.
I wouldn't if I was straight and white.
Yeah, like, people are being waved away from coming here. Like,
right.
Let alone,
This is an insane time to like be pulled to the kingdom for some hubristic folly. Just because they want to get into esports because they heard they can make, 102% ROI in 18 months and then dump the whole thing. Like this, it's a bridge too far, I believe.
Solid Snake 120
for the business reasons and for like the actual and in this particular case, the crazy amount of humanitarian reasons why we can't be party to this.
Yeah.
And again, the worst part is that this has an impact by existing, right?
Yeah.
Like the money for the Esports World Cup is so much more than almost anything else. Not even just in fighting games, in general. I remember last year it was like best set was like an award they were giving away. 10 grand. That's more than most tournaments' prize pools.
Yeah. It's the same with Live Golf, which is like it is life-changing money that is up on offer because they're trying to buy their way into these spaces.
Yeah. So life-changing that the PGA just gave up and they just work together now.
Which, man, I was pleased when they were like, no, and not only that, if you join the Live Golf tournament, you're not welcome to the PGA anymore. Or the Masters, you can't go to any of these. And then they just caved, and it's just like, well, okay, then.
They caved because the individual, the players caved. Had, especially, and it's not even like the small guys, because that makes a little more sense.
Yeah, it's like I could make myself with this money. Yeah.
Number 150 who made it to the tour but is not making it. He's not getting his sponsorships, not getting endorsements. They can get on a plane and go, and they can say they did it. They got their card. That guy gets paid 10 times more to go play and live. That's one thing. Instead, it's like Tiger Woods.
The people who already have all the money.
$300 million who wanted to make $600 million.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't even have to try. They just had to
find... already won capitalism. Why are you still doing this?
It's the profit incentive or like the argument for its existence, the justification of existence, that it's more money from a different area and it allows you to, the gatekeepers can't stop you from making this money. But then they just buy the gatekeepers. So like, what's the point? Yeah. The same thing will happen in the FGC. They're not breaking open new boundaries for new people. They're just going to get the old people and have them make way more money and put their faces on their walls instead.
And that's what happened if you looked at the makeup of who was there in the past and versus who said, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not going to judge any, like, it's one of those things where it's like, listen, especially at fighting games, I can't judge anybody who says, I can do this and make a shitload of money.
Life-changing amount of money.
Yeah, because, it's like, this is not, for most competitive, like, professional players, this is not a sustainable life, right? So I get it. I get the temptation, but, like, this is, the fact that it has gotten here is just so disheartening, and the fact that we are here now at this time with everything else that's going on here and all across the world, and it's just, and the fact that when people have the right to, not even the right, people have the opportunity to say something about it because they're in a position where they have that privilege, they shut their mouths. Makes me furious.
Not good luck.
No, it isn't.
No.
And I did not think that I was going to be basically the only person writing about this, and I'm not. Connor McCarr over at Eurogamer also wrote about this. If you know Connor, you know he's a real one.
He's a legend, absolute legend.
He's an absolute legend, and there's nothing going on in his brain. It's just mist and fog. We love Connor. But the fact that, as far as I can tell in the stuff that I've read, it's basically just me and basically just him. Everybody else is just excited to be here, man.
I think, I wonder, and I guess this is more of a question. We're all in the business in some extent here. Do you think it's just not being equipped to have that conversation? Not feeling equipped to have that conversation? Because I don't think it's editorial pressure, personally. I think if 10 people showed up with drafts that are critical, I think 9 of those would get run.
I think so. I think that Will is right. Just the presence of the money is enough. You get the chilling effect. You get people self-policing. You get people, there's that saying that's going around in like amongst a lot of like from older activists to newer activists, like don't obey ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And because that is an instinct that people have. I think that's part of it. And Will, correct me if you think I'm wrong. This is all like the FGC is a very small community in gaming. Even the bigger games are like not that huge in the grand scheme of things. And then Fatal Fury is like a much smaller circle amongst that. So it's just like, first of all, who's even qualified to talk about this game at all? And then like among those people, who has the kind of wherewithal to talk about Saudi influence? I think it's just a numbers game, to be honest. But I don't know. What do you think?
I'm gonna let Kris go ahead, and then I'll tell you what I think.
I just want to say simply that we don't have to necessarily be fully equipped to tell all the specifics like we've discussed here.
Sure.
But if something sits wrong with you or something feels off, and you know that there is a bigger part of the story, then put a disclaimer. Say, open your, like, this is what I do whenever I, touch on something that's like, I'm going to go into a review for something that's, has these elements, and I'm going to cover it as much as I can, but I open by saying, look, you need to be aware of this. This company does this. This is the situation. Go into this and everything else. I won't bring it up constantly, and I don't know the full story. I cannot speak to the full story, but this is happening. This is here, and this is the first thing you should read when you read this piece. With that out of the way, here's the rest. Here's what you're here to read. Yeah. It's something. It's not, you don't have to go into this, again, we just discussed for like half an hour about this topic. You don't have to go to that extent. You don't have to know all the relations. But just at the very start, you just go, there are real people in this game, actual real people, and there may be, alleged situations that are pretty much confirmed regarding them that you should be aware of. Okay, cool. We got that. That's here. Off you go. That's all it takes. And they're not even doing that. And that's a bad look.
Listen, I'm going to both answer Brian's question and follow up to what Kris said. I don't think there are very many people in this business who are qualified to write about fighting games, much less Fatal Fury. This is a niche genre. You have to understand the history of these games, and most people don't. I can think of maybe 4 other people in this business that I would trust to write those pieces. That said, it costs you nothing if you are going to be the guy. Actually, no, it may not even cost you nothing. I have no idea what my relationship with SNK is going to be after this. I wrote it anyway. So maybe it costs you something. But I was writing that piece, and the only thing I could think of was, I can either write this the way that I know to be right, or I can give away a little piece of myself. And those were my options. I could either do a thing I knew was not true, was not right, was not the way that this should be handled, and sell a little piece of my soul to keep everybody happy, or I could write the fucking piece. And so I wrote it. And the fact that most people didn't even seem to have that train of thought is what bothers me. It's not that they tried and did it badly. It's that nobody tried.
I often think
deserve to be better.
I often think about what should be included. I think a lot of reviewers, rightly or wrongly, try to just keep it to what's in front of them, regardless of context or whatever. It doesn't to excuse it. It's just like a thing I've noticed, and a thing I've done. Like I made no mention of like the months of toxic discourse up to the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows, which I thought was probably a pretty important context. And like vitally important to the game itself, which the first time it features a real person that you can play.
Yeah, these conversations are
leading up,
bizarrely linked.
Yeah, the 6 months leading to that game was a bunch of people either just crediting real history or just being racist. The racism is like a thing that happens that you can kind of set your watch to, but it does. Shouldn't, but it does. But it goes a step further to sort of resist reality and surface to this racism, and then try to make it warp everything about how this game has been designed. Like, because you can trip and fall into a shrine in a thing, Ubisoft is actively trying to undermine Japanese culture in a way that 35-year-old white dudes in America are really upset about for some reason. It's all of that. There's a story that can be written around the critique of the game that exists that includes the story of the conversation around it. But that's a 4,000 word piece, and I don't got it, baby. Sorry. But also, that's also an exhausting thing to do. And I think in that particular case, I ultimately felt like that's not a fight not a fight I want to fight or that's worth fighting and doesn't enrich my experience with this or anyone else's experience with it directly. But B, it was another sort of sit and think point. Like, what about this game is important besides the game I'm playing? Which is just one of those things that I feel like happens a lot to people who write in this particular form, in this particular business. A lot of untrained writers who kind of learn to do it on the fly, never took ethics classes, are kind of just watching people come to these conclusions or come to this. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to read your City of Wolves review and not even know how you came to write this way about these things, because they would look at the game and think, do punch and kick good? Yeah. Yes or no? I do think some of it is not just like a people are afraid sort of thing. I think it's like a people aren't equipped. People don't know how to think this way. And they have bad role models because no one really in this business does.
Well, and even if they do, like one of the biggest issues that I've encountered and that I have noticed in just talking to other people running a like community of writers in this business is that the training just does not exist. Like there's no mentorship, there's no training, there's no people have come to this business from all kinds of different avenues. Like Will comes by way of academia. Other people are just games enthusiasts who have never had a different type of job. They just started doing this in college and what have you. There are other people who came to it from like who have degrees in journalism. So it's like, but you're not really like, if you're not doing the actual on the ground journalism, you're doing critique, then like you may know about ethics, but it's like a different part of ethics, so it's like, it's there's no course, there's no curriculum.
No,
there should be.
And I mean,
and maybe we should do something about that, but
we barely get paid as it is. Of course, they're not going to spend
That's-
extra resources
that's
on
true.
training us.
it's true.
Speaking of being equipped, though, something that kind of came to mind just now, and something I'm frustrated about for other reasons in the space is knowledge, right? Not knowing things, not taking the time to do the background reading,
Due diligence.
Yeah, and we've been here before, twice recently, with Activision Blizzard. We had tons of websites going back and forth about what to do about that. And then with Hogwarts Legacy, with a bunch of websites going back and forth on what to do about that. And there was a lot of what Kris was talking about, things like disclaimers. We saw it with Gamergate too, eventually.
Which one?
The first one.
the real one.
Yeah. And these are all things that like you had to be aware of if you exist in that space. If you're in the media, you're probably hanging out on Twitter. You probably know by osmosis what the Harry Potter controversy is. You obviously know what's going on with Activision Blizzard and Gamergate just by being there. So I think with Ronaldo, there's a lot of I don't go here that might be a factor. Stereotypes, nerds in sports don't always kind of come together that often in ways that affect coverage in games media. So I do wonder if that's a piece of it. I don't think that's the answer. But I can't help but think like if a review doesn't even mention it beyond like, oh, that's weird. They probably barely know who that guy is and didn't bother to like look him up for 2 seconds. It's a different kind of issue.
I mean, kind of case in point. How many people talk about the Chinese government's concentration camps and their investment in Tencent and other like connections to game developers and stuff like that?
People talk about Tencent and sort of Chinese influence so much that they talk about it like the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like,
Remember when Riot had that fucking anti-cheat program and everyone was convinced they were going to sell your kernel level access to China?
Yeah, everybody thought it was
whoever.
TikTok selling it to China. Yeah,
They'll sell it to whoever.
Yeah,
it's not a case of that.
Yeah,
right.
But it just becomes part of the narrative being told in the US that China is bad. China are the bad guys. Pay no attention to what we're doing or what anyone else is doing that we happen to like.
They are uniquely bad in a way that Americans would never do, apparently.
Yeah.
That we're definitely not doing right now.
For sure.
Pay no attention to the fact that fascism and totalitarianism relies on having an other to point you at to keep you from pointing it at you or them, or the disparities within your own society that should not exist but do. There must be an other to fight. And in this case, America routinely makes the other China. And guess what? Most Chinese people would probably agree with you if you ever spoke to them or had the chance to engage in this kind of shit. Most of them don't like what's going on either.
Well, yeah.
They're people.
The same way that a lot of people here don't like what's going on here.
Yeah.
You know? And like,
That's
obviously,
the narrative.
The Saudi people are not the problem. The Chinese people are not the problem. It's the crown prince and the government there and etc. All these sorts of things.
Yeah.
China's got the propaganda machine going crazy though recently.
Mm-hmm.
They got Speed over there, like getting punched by monks in the dick, like
man's in the flying car, just
partying on the flying yacht. Yeah, just going nuts.
I don't know. I apologize. I didn't mean to make this a 40-minute conversation. I guess I'm just I don't have a lot of illusions left about this business. And I had a couple today and they died. And
don't apologize. This was a conversation that should be happening a lot more than just us. Yeah.
And I'm not special or unique or anything like that for writing the thing that I wrote. But I am shocked that I'm the only person really, aside from Connor, as far as I can tell, that decided to do it. So.
If you've been listening to this show for longer than 5 minutes, you know, we get into this sort of stuff.
We try to cause it like we sees it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure the listeners who have been listening for longer than 5 minutes are very tired of my bullshit. So I'm going to let somebody else talk.
Well, since the issue, the topic was already broached, did we want to talk a little bit more about AC Shadows? We don't have to get super heavy into it, but I've been playing it. I'm not sure.
I reviewed Assassin's Creed Shadows for the Imagines Games Network.
Yeah.
Every time Jarrett says Imagine Games Network, he gets $5.
I say it to everyone because no one knows what it is anymore.
It shocks me that every time that we mention this, like offhandedly in the server or elsewhere, that somebody's like, "What? That's what?" And I'm like, "How do you not know this by now?"
Yeah,
every time it gets mentioned, I get another silver hair.
Yeah,
we're losing our recipes. I've never been worried about writing a review until that one. And only because you couldn't have picked like a person more prepared to argue about this forever, who has to then resist doing so forever. Because that is a quicksand that will take me for sure. I always found, as a person who is largely not a weeb, I always found Yasuke to be a very interesting situation for me.
Yeah.
I don't watch anime. I do not have the same sort of affinity for Japan a lot of Americans do, but specifically a lot of Black Americans that are in my age. So in my age and in my, who are my peers, my best friends.
Yeah.
But Yasuke is a historical figure I always found to be fascinating. I know way too much about this person and know nothing about anything else in Japan. So, it's almost like when you read a book, when you have read a book and then 10 years later they make the movie and you're very prepared to see how they adapt the book. I was super prepared to see how they adapt a life that we don't know a whole lot about in in specificity about this person, but doing so being kind of long time triggered by just watching whatever this last attempt at Gamergate was kind of swell around this. And knowing that as a person who has become the Assassin's Creed person at IGN over the past 4-ish years, that me And my editors know that this is like a natural progression, that I just do the next big Assassin's Creed game. Anyone who looks at my profile on Twitter and then sees my name under the byline about the Assassin's Creed game about the giant black samurai would be like, well, what in the DAI happened here? So it was not like I don't think I could have done a good job. It's more like I don't want to have like I never want to fight anyone on the internet about my reviews. I don't read the comments. I don't read retweets. I just publish it and leave it alone.
You're a stronger man than I.
I like buy 1,000. Don't want to have any of this conversation about this particular game.
And yet here you are wading into the deeper part of the trenches. Yeah.
Right. And instead I'm going to have every conversation about this game to the worst people on the internet.
I agree that
ironically,
the worst people.
It ended up being fine. It ended up being like the same. Like I was worried that I was going to have a problem, and then a problem never really came. I had a bigger problem with my Dragon Ball Sparking Zero review than I did with this one.
Man, some people were salty about that game.
Yeah, they were.
Listen, and a month later I was justified because everybody stopped playing that game.
True, you were valid.
Everybody stopped playing it. Wonder why. But ultimately, I think AC Shadows is like a great attempt at like trying to find what everybody liked in 2015. Like they had been expanding forever. Odyssey was like an attempt to like super Witcher it up.
Yeah.
Valhalla was like, what if we put like 60 hours more story than we need in the middle of all that? And this is more like, all right, let's keep it a little breezier. We're gonna go to Japan finally.
We are going low sales, break glass.
Right, yeah, break glass finally.
Which is another thing that like really keyed like this discussion up, is because like we had been waiting for this specific setting in this series for so long that several other games in other series kind of came in and stole their lunch money.
2 Neo games, Sony did one, and then who did
the Ghost of Tsushima in the Rood, in the room.
And then Rise of the Ronin,
So Team Ninja did 3, and
oh, that's true, yeah. They did Neos and Rise of Ronin, and then even FromSoft was like, here, damn, and with Sekiro. And man, finally, on their last leg, Activision needs a W, or they are or not Activision, Ubi needs a W, or they are absolutely bankrupt. Let's go to Japan finally. And ultimately, I think it's a win. It's still not the game I'd make, but it's certainly a game I felt better playing than like Valhalla. A game I like. There's like a really interesting game about the Anglo expansion across Europe and America. About Eivor's like growing paranoia, as it is a metaphor for Odin's paranoia for the Ragnarok. The weird sort of in the present Abstergo story where the aliens are literally in the machine now, and they're traveling through time. Just a lot of weird shit.
2 sounds like such an incredible drug trip.
It is.
It's like it's wild, completely ridiculous, and Valhalla goes nuts. So like, it's funny if anyone didn't play that and then played Mirage and was like, "Who is this guy? What are they talking about?" Like, yeah, sorry.
It's legit. Like if you like take Assassin's Creed and then like crudely staple like a Doctor Who episode on top of it. It's basically
kind of.
Damn. That's crazy.
Yeah. The problem with Valhalla, I found, is that it's a very good 15-hour game that takes 100 hours.
Yeah. They think they really got the wrong lesson from Odyssey. Their people were like, I like exploring here. And you're like, oh, you like exploring? Oh, bitch, I got plenty for you to see. It's mostly rolling hills.
A theme park full of red lights.
Yeah.
Look at all this snow. You can put footprints in.
Yeah, you want to climb? Here's a deer out there. You want to throw a javelin at it or whatever? I don't care.
There's a treasure chest here.
Yeah, there's some armor in there.
Yeah.
Want to do that 25 more times?
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna have to because it's level gated.
Yeah.
God, I hate that, dude. That was when I noped out of Odyssey. When they were like, "Oh, you actually have to level up if you want to continue with the story," and I was like, "Fuck that."
That is the problem. Odyssey's big problem is like the third act is like level gated by like 10 levels. You got to like grind and do fucking nothing to get to the end of that
Go do
story.
the side content.
And it was crazy
We
because
hope you
like
don't like the main content.
I found Solid Snake 120 in the chat says, "Yeah, that ruined AC for me." Yep, me too. Like I honestly I stopped playing after Odyssey because of that, and I came back for Shadows because I was interested to see what they did with Yasuke. And it's interesting because I got to this point. There's a point in Odyssey where there's like an armada of ships that's progressing, and there's a big plot reveal and like twist that happens when they reveal who the character that's kind of hunting you is. And I was like, oh my God, like I have to see more. And then they're like, you have to get to level 25. And I was like, ah!
Yep.
And I was like riding a horse in an island out in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, I don't even know where I go to do something from here. Like, but yeah, man, just so obnoxious. But yeah, so I am curious, Jarrett, because I don't know that much about Yasuke. I always thought he was cool, but I never really consumed anything that kind of focused on him. And so other than like knowing that, one, this is kind of the, in case of emergency, break glass, we're going to Japan for Assassin's Creed thing. This is also the first one where there is, like in Fatal Fury, this is the first one where one of the main characters was a real person, which is really interesting.
Which is an interesting opportunity to embellish, right? Because they embellish all the time with real people in Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, you just
but you're never
Da Vinci.
You're not Da Vinci, right?
Yeah.
Like you see Da Vinci, but you're not him.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to live as this person whose life they are reinterpreting. I don't think it necessarily. I think the story is like an interesting one. It has its highs, but I think it, especially towards the end, it kind of completely misses. Because and part of that is in misinterpreting Yasuke's relationship with the Jesuits that brought him here and the Japanese that kept him here. And part of it is like so Yasuke was he was sold to slavery probably at a young age from probably Western Africa, probably by other Africans. Sold to Portuguese slavers. The Jesuit mission, most likely. So the Jesuits historically, think about the Crusades. The Catholic Crusades is Spanish, but soft power. The Jesuits didn't want to pillage. They wanted to come and do trade with you in commerce and then set up churches and then convert everyone the slow and the long and strong way. And with it, bring all of the kinds of impurities that a developing sort of sense of proto-capitalism and the hard line of sort of Puritan Catholicism brings with it. He was employed likely as just a strong guy for his early sort of life, and then got into bodyguarding, which is where he learned to fight. By then, the Portuguese had set up they had a relationship either both in colonies and a political relationship with India, where Yasuke likely got most of his military training. There, he also probably earned a sort of autonomy that isn't quite freedom, but not slavery. And that's important because that's why he got to move around with the kind of autonomy he had when he was in the employ of Jesuit missions going across the world. He was like head of security for a couple of specific guys. So he was allowed a leash longer than most would be allowed because he needed it to be able to secure the places and be trusted to do all these things. They treated him like an employee for the most part. As much as Portuguese Jesuits in the 1500s would treat a African as an employee. Yeah. So when they go to Japan, there's an ongoing Japanese mission, or Jesuit mission in Japan to convert the Japanese to Catholicism. And it's kind of working, but not as much as they want, largely because of Oda Nobunaga, who is unifying Japan, and he himself is not a Catholic. He's not a Buddhist either, which is another warring sort of religious faction. But
he is in fact a demon, if you believe all the video game
depending on which game you play, he is from hell, or a mentor.
They talk about the tension in the scene where Nobunaga and Yasuke get introduced to each other in shadows. They talk about that, and he brings up like, they're not Buddhists either. That sort of like he's kind of flippant about both of these groups.
He finds
Team Oda, baby.
Yeah, basically, he finds him to be pragmatic. I think Oda Nobunaga is actually a pretty the best other like recent video game analogy you can make for Oda's philosophy for unifying Japan is Luis from Metaphor. He really just believes power is important. His cadre is full of just whoever can prove themselves independent and powerful and work for and loyal to Nobunaga, which is why when the Jesuits arrived to Japan and word spreads that they have this giant African warrior with them, he wants to know him. He wants to see him.
Yeah.
They kind of are treating him like he's special because in Shinto writings, a giant human-shaped Oni with black skin is someone to be revered. So they're actually treating him almost like a holy symbol, which is kind of weird. But once Oda meets him, the reason this priest, whose name I can't remember, who's in the game, the guy that goes to have that meeting is a real guy too.
Yeah.
The reason he wants to see him at all is because Yasuke is with him. And that is when the trade happens. He says,
becomes obvious like immediately, basically.
Yeah, I want that guy.
Yeah.
I want him you leave him with me, and we can talk about you building churches here or whatever. All of that is real. He lives in Yasuke's service, or Yasuke lives in his service. He learns a lot about being a samurai. He's already a pretty good fighter. He'd never, swung a katana before. He really got into naginatas. Learned a lot about the political sort of how different both the political landscape and the social landscape are in Japan than they are in India and really anywhere else he's been. It's far more sort of socially liberal than he's used to. And he really starts to find his place here, and then Nobunaga is assassinated. And that's where history kind of stops for him. He is returned to the Jesuits because the man who kills Nobunaga sends him back. Basically, they have one more standoff. He loses and gets sent back to Jesuit custody. The Jesuits are working with the new ruler, the guy who killed Nobunaga. They're trying to keep their inroads. And eventually he makes a pretty decent life for himself independently, and then history kind of forgets him. He does not lead a revolution with the Fubiashi daughter, who is also like a made-up character, a daughter of real characters. So how they interpret
Assassin's
basically
Creed. Yeah.
Right. So how they interpret everything after his assassination is very interesting, but also does not play very well with his actual history. So when they try to like tie a bow on it and like say he's motivated by, I don't know, his family or whatever, his mystery, whatever, wherever he came from, it's not really accurate because we don't really know that about him. They're kind of implying that he should. Why wouldn't he feel this way when really we don't really know that he felt that way at all? Yeah. But this idea that he can be sort of like a questing knight almost, just riding through Japan, is more accurate than not, actually. He probably did just ride from place to place and just do shit.
And admittedly, it's kind of a cool idea. It's kind of a cool fantasy.
Yeah. I am masterless, but like not really. And I can kind of decide what I want to do here. Everybody kind of knows me. He's like a celebrity. Hard not to be when you're like one of 3 black people on the island, and like you were Oda Nobunaga's like second. So its interpretation of that history is pretty cool. If it doesn't hit completely. I tried to play some Ghost of Tsushima before I played this to like really lock in like what are the differences mechanically, because Ghost always felt like it's just doing Assassin's Creed, but like if Ubi won't do it, Sony's gonna do it. And though like animations kind of make things different, and like the stances in Ghost of Tsushima has obviously changed the battle system a lot, these are kind of the same games.
They're not super complicated. They're not like the kind of action game that Will would appreciate. Right. Yeah. For example,
I think that they made what's his name in Ghosts? The guy they just basically slapped these 2 characters into one. Jin is like, they separated Jin to make Naoe and Yasuke, and Jin is just kind of both of these people, which mechanically it probably makes more sense, because like once you get halfway through get halfway through Shadows, you're kind of like, well, why would I play Yasuke? Because Naoe can kind of do all of this. Unless I just want to be bulletproof and just literally kick through walls and kill 10 dudes at once.
It's pretty cool.
I can probably just play Naoe, who can climb up walls faster and do Assassin's Creed shit, and where Yasuke can't even sneak.
If you want to play Assassin's Creed, you don't play as Yasuke. You play him as a novelty.
Which makes you wonder what are you playing if you're playing as Yasuke, which is like the big sort of complex of the second half of that game. It's like, this is a cool guy, but like, I don't know. It's kind of like you kind of make this game hard.
Wrong game for him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like that's probably like, Naoe is the character that you play when you're trying to do Assassin's Creed stuff. But because Assassin's Creed is also in Japan, and Japan is famous for 2 different fighting styles, and one of them is not very Assassin's Creed, or at least it was Assassin's Creed in like Assassin's Creed 2, where like you just wail on people with a sword until they fall over, you know. But
or more accurately, you sit there and just press the counter button.
You press circle and they all die.
Basically.
The difference though is that Ezio could also then climb a wall and vanish.
That's correct.
Where Yasuke cannot do that. Like, you're gonna try, you're gonna fail. He's not gonna duck into a bush.
Well, and at a certain point, they decided, like Ubisoft decided, we don't want Assassin's Creed characters in Assassin's Creed games to be able to assassinate people. We want to.
Yeah, that was an interesting moment in their lives. Yeah.
I was just like, wait, what? I jumped on somebody from the top of this roof and jabbed my knife into their neck, and then they get up and fight me for like 10 more minutes. Like, what the hell is that?
I guess they figured that if your knees didn't explode bouncing off their back, then they don't die. That's like a trade, I guess.
I guess that's fair. If I can jump off a 40-story building into a bale of hay and be fine, then I guess he could be assassinated through the neck and just shake it off.
If Ubisoft also kind of understands the problem, because they designed parts of that game around that problem, where in being moments you kind of a long sequence might happen in sections, where like every section you'll then choose who takes the next section, Naoe or Yasuke, and the level will change based on who you pick. So if you choose Naoe, there might be more of a chase thing where you can run off the rooftops while someone's running on the ground and you're kind of trying to like catch up to them. or hide from them, and hopefully they'll run around the wrong corner and you'll grab them. If it's Yasuke, it's probably just an alley, like a long hallway with all the doors closed, and you just kill your way through the end.
It's the hallway
camera
scene
pivots
from
to the side from Old Boy.
It's just the old. I was just gonna say
Yes.
it's the Old Boy / Daredevil / Sifu thing where it's just boom. Here we go.
Kind of, and they'll change like the strength of the enemies. Might have more armor, and like you might have to fight more than one brute at a time. So like there's the combat is like turned up, knowing that you're playing the combat guy.
Yeah.
It's just not there's not a lot of those moments, and when you try to make them yourself, it doesn't really fly the same way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I
like it though. If you're missing Assassin's Creed, you should maybe like take a little purchase.
Yeah.
A little dive.
I also like it, and I wanted to say like we talked about the scene where Yasuke and Nobunaga are introduced. I think that scene is badass. Like I think that scene is really like it's fun. It's well written. Like the vibes are interesting. You're immediately like, I was immediately pulled in. Like, wait, what's going on? Like with the dynamic between these two guys, because like there's like several different power dynamics at play in that scene, which I think is always like a recipe for good tension.
Yeah, when Yasuke is speaking Japanese and doesn't, or not Yasuke, when Nobunaga is speaking Japanese, and the two Jesuit priests are speaking Japanese, all of which are assuming Yasuke can understand them.
Yep.
And the Jesuits try to answer for him, and he eventually answers himself in Japanese.
Yep. So good.
Which probably didn't work that way, but Yasuke did learn Japanese in his time there and became pretty good at it. Even got into writing haikus and calligraphy, like was like really into it.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, a great way to introduce like a character. If you want to make a guy seem, he almost feels like almost Mary Sued a little bit. Like he can do fucking everything.
Yeah.
Like the only problem he has is like being too good. Like, but
that's my problem.
He's also like very charismatic. It's
relatable,
cool to see kind of like he's like a Superman in a I guess like kind of more practical way. Like he can do good, so he does do good. He is strong enough to do it. Literally, he will just punch the wall over and make it happen. So he does, and I think that's an interesting shoes to be in.
I think it's fun that they introduced that on a gameplay front, like very early on. Like I think the first mission he goes on, like you're literally kicking down doors and gates and just like
press stick to run through a wall. You're like, oh goddamn.
He's I didn't realize I was playing as the fucking Kool-Aid man, bro. This is awesome. But yeah, I also recommend it. I think it's a lot of fun. Yeah, let me stop talking for a while and pass this over to let's see. Kris and Lucas, what do you guys have this up? Because we've been going for a long time on basically just two topics.
Yeah. So I came with Lunar Remastered and 100 Line.
Oh yeah.
So I do either of those.
All right.
Well, I'm interested in both of those. So
yeah, I was gonna say, Kris, are you cool with it if we get into 100 Line right now?
Go for it.
Yeah, let's do it.
You and I have another topic in common later, so we'll come back to that.
Yes.
So I talked about 100 Line last time, mostly like in terms of like its tactics, combat, and stuff. So we'll really get into that this time. So now that I've like played the game and reviewed it, and other people reviewed it and stuff, I think I was more worried about spoilers than I should have been. So that's fun to think about in hindsight. Basically, my takeaway from this game is it is so unhinged in terms of being like a creative work from the people who made it. By that I mean like you have Kodaka, who is known for Danganronpa, which is already kind of crazy, but that was a series that was greenlit by a publisher and went through committees and blah blah blah. And Uchikoshi and Zero Escape and Somnium Files, those are also games that like were pitched to publishers, blah blah blah. So the whole thing is here, what if both of these guys made their own company, made their own game, and we're like, fuck you, we're gonna just put everything we can think in here. Like nobody's gonna tell us no this time. So what
this
you
can
basically
either
end
be a
up
complete
with,
disaster or something really fascinating, or both.
oh, it's both.
Good.
Basically, you end up with what if Danganronpa was like 200 hours long?
Oh, jeez.
Great.
Yeah. So what happens is it goes through the story, and it's basically like, what if there was like a death game kind of situation, but it wasn't actually a death game, and like the characters go through the whole story together, and maybe somebody dies, but it's not like part of the thing. Like it's a shocking thing, and it's a bad thing, terrible thing. So it's like, what if these characters are all together the whole time, and we tell this kind of story? Um, and it's still like a lot of it, like it's fighting a losing battle. You're defending a building from aliens constantly attacking it, so on and so on. So you get to the end, and you're probably 30 some hours, and it's like, well, that was fucked up, wasn't it? And you're like, yeah, that was fucked up. And again goes, if you could, would you go back and do all 100 days over again? If you could change something, would you do it? And the main character spends the last several days of the game, because it's 100 days you go through, it's actual counts down the days, and he's just like, fuck, I don't know, would I? And you go and ask everyone there what they would do if, and it's just kind of like, fuck, what if I could go back and do it again? And it's like, oh, you can, surprise. And it opens up the kind of I call it the uchikoshi format. uh, I may say his right name wrong.
Branching paths.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're now going to turn the story that you just experienced into a chunk of story pieces on a map. And that map is fucking huge. And you can just go wherever you want on it. You can go to the choices you made and make a different choice. You will have choices in places that there weren't choices. Because the initial story it's just the story. There's like a point where it teases you with a choice, but it's like you can only press no to proceed, that kind of thing. And it's not just like, so a lot of visual novels with branching paths, it's usually like, oh, well, there's like a route for each character, or like maybe there's like story A, story B, story C. This game is fucking, it tells you like there's 100 endings. And it's not just like you go through the story and then it's like, okay, here's the end where it branches out. It's like the beginning, you can make a choice and it will go way up, it'll send you up here on the map, and then there's more branches, and or like another choice, you'll go down this way, or you go through, and like it is a massive web of story differences, to the point where like you'll be playing an entirely different story after like the first couple of days worth of introduction. And even then it's different because your character now is aware that he's like traveling through time and shit.
The meta knowledge is there. Yeah.
It's funny. One of the biggest choices is like, do you tell everyone that you're from the future or not? Do you even try? And then what happens from there? Because obviously it goes and like, oh, it's the butterfly effect. So if you change something, blah blah. But yeah, it's basically like that.
Fun movie.
But an absurd scale. I got 3 endings. I was heading towards the 4th one, and I ran out of gas, at least as far as like playing nothing but that game for almost 2 weeks, which I was not expecting. And it was like I don't know what to say about this, because it's not like a lot of games like this where it's like you go to the other route to fill in context for some other things, and then maybe you get like a fun alternate ending, whatever. It's literally different shit is happening entirely. And sometimes something that happens that doesn't make sense in one route, you'll figure out, oh, this is how that works. And the fact that you have more knowledge just sort of builds on the route you're on, but it doesn't really add a whole lot to what you already saw. It's just like the mythology is expanding as you explore. And it's just it's insane. Like it's like these guys were just like, we're gonna do whatever we want, and it's gonna take as long as we want it to take. And you're either here for that or you're not.
What I'm getting out of this is that they played 13 Sentinels and then went bet.
Basically.
Damn, they cooked. We could cook too.
Yeah.
So my problem.
It's wild because like I have not played Danganronpa 3 yet, and I just haven't been able to like get up the desire to do that. And now I'm just like,
you know, they make
right,
pills for that, Brian.
Here's the
I only have so
I have video
much
game
patience.
ED. You heard it here first.
I only have so much patience for the way that guy tells stories, and if you're not here for that, don't even try, because it's that, but more unhinged, less filtered, and just more.
That's
more.
Like I feel like
and
that
with
is
another guy adding to
with
it.
another guy fucking around too. Yeah,
I feel like that is enough to like actually get me started with this one though.
It is fascinating.
Yeah.
Like Spike Chunsoft would have told them to get the fuck out of the office if they tried to pitch this. So my problem is they're also like, okay, we also need to be like Persona. So
social link, go
check all the boxes.
Yeah. So you have bond ranks with the characters, and that doesn't really unlock until after the initial story is done. But before, it's like, oh, you have free time today, so you can go and talk to your homies, learn more about them, and that'll make this list of stats go up, and then that can lead to like upgrades for your combat and shit. So they kind of have that incentive in front of you. And then when it opens up, it's like, okay, now you can go up to 5 stars with each character if you want. And there's a gift system. And you can throw gifts at your friends until they like you and maybe they hit on you a little bit or something. And to make those gifts, you have to go out and do this mini game that's like a board game / roguelike, where you just go around and collect things. And some of them are ingredients, some of them are like key ingredients. And you can make your gifts and give them to your friends, and everyone has specific things they like, blah, blah, blah. But you can just be like, oh, you really like this one. I'm just going to make this over and over again until I get your thing. And it is incredibly shallow despite having so much time and space dedicated to it. Most of the time when you talk to people, if you're not leveling up their bond rating, so all the times in between you're throwing gifts at them, they just say the same thing over and over and over again. When the bond rating does go up, you get a couple of lines of dialogue from them. It's kind of like, good job, see you later. So it's just very minimal impact. There's upgrades tied behind it. That's it. And you don't need to do nearly the amount of that if you just want to get that.
Does that affect story routes or anything? Are they locked behind certain, character bonds or anything, or is it just?
So what happens is the game is always just like, well, we have all this stuff, so we need to make sure there's space for it.
Right.
So by the time I was on the 3rd story route and I saw free time come up on the screen, I wanted to smash my face into my Nintendo Switch. Because it's like, holy shit, I'm done, I'm finished, I don't want to interact with this part of the game anymore, and I want to play more story, because it's so different. You're not really skipping much. It's not like a lot of visual novels, you go back to the beginning to make new choices, you can skip everything you've seen already. But this is like maybe 5 minutes of that before it goes off on a new thing. And to its credit, you can skip battles you've already done some version of before and still get rewards from it and stuff. But
That's nice.
It dedicates so much space and time to this. I called it this is the store brand LaCroix of character bonding systems. And it took the wind out of my sails big time. I was like, you are asking for so much of my time, and also asking me to flush that time down the toilet just to get to the next thing. And the more I feel that and see that, the less patience I have for anything I'm not digging on the writing side.
Yeah.
This is why there is a benefit to editors and such. This is why it's not necessarily great to just let a creative person go buck wild. So
yeah. And one last thing about my problems here is Kodaka's style can be very entertaining. He's like, here's a bunch of characters. They have one personality trait, but they are like the most deranged you could possibly be about your one personality trait. So it's like really fun. And they interact with each other, and the characters are constantly screaming at each other. Two problems. One is that if the personality trait the character has kind of sucks, you have to listen to them scream about it the whole time. Two is a lot of the thing this guy does is like character A wants to have a serious conversation about something. Every other line of dialogue they have character B, C, E, F, Y, they have to scream their catchphrase maybe more than once in a single conversation before you can get through it. And sometimes they even derail it entirely by being obnoxious, and you're just like, okay, I guess we're doing this again. So when you've got that guy kind of not having anyone telling him no, you just get more of that dialed way up, and it can get tiresome. Especially when he gets... I saw someone say Kodaka is horny derogatory and Uchikoshi is horny complimentary. And you know, he goes to some places that just aren't fun to you know, like characters who ignore boundaries a lot and stuff like that. But yeah, so like I was reading some reviews today. A lot of people were just like, "Oh my god, this is so bold and brilliant." You know, nobody else will make a game like this, and it's like they're kind of right.
maybe they shouldn't.
But yeah, I just like I see something like, "Oh, it's like this, but also with Persona elements," and I'm already kind of squinting a little bit. And then when it's like the Persona elements, just ruin the pace of the actual storytelling for me. I burned out. I might go back. I don't know. I'm curious about some things. But there was a point where it's like, I can't do this anymore. I have to stop.
This sounds like something you don't binge. You just come back to every couple of weeks and just play through another route and leave it at that.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's also kind of an interesting time to be incorporating Persona-like elements into your series when even the latest game from that team kind of cuts half of the Persona elements out of it because they realized, hey, the bonding systems are like not super fun and we don't really have a lot to say.
There's a lot of filler in it.
So let's really simplify and truncate that to make it better. And it's better as a result. Yeah. Weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I wonder how much of that is a statement of the system and more them just trying something different in a game that's not Persona. Like if Persona 6 shows up, is it just going to be like a Bible of social link stuff again? Is it going to be like going to work again?
So, yeah.
Is it going to go
I feel like
that's a year of time?
That is what that series is at this point, right? Like,
yeah,
metaphor, it can be anything. So they tried something different.
Yeah,
because one didn't exist before. But I feel like people come to those games for that.
But I mean, if you look at how the reception of metaphor was compared to the last Persona game, like I feel like hopefully they would learn from that, right? That was a move in the right direction.
Maybe, but I think my skepticism is I don't think people dislike Persona 5 like social link stuff. I think they fucking liked it a lot, actually.
That's
my impression for someone who didn't play it and only watching it from the outside.
That is true. Yeah, and five was like 5 and Metaphor are the two most acclaimed games that those teams have put out.
For better and worse.
Yeah.
5 put those people in the driver's seat, essentially.
I forget, did 5 or 5 Royale win any like Game of the Year awards?
It was a contender.
I feel like it was definitely nominated, but I don't know that it won anything.
Persona 5 was in the Keeley Orchestra gimmick at the end of one of those.
Here is the problem with Persona 5. It came out in the same year as Breath of the Wild in the West.
That's true. Yeah, that was a lot of the conversation. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was P5. Breath
And
of
Near
the
Automata is
Wild.
better than both. Oh,
Oh, he had to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think social links itself kind of became a colloquial term that everyone uses now for these kind of things.
yeah, they don't even use that in Metaphor or Persona 5, but I immediately just go,
right.
I just call it social link go because
yeah.
Shout out to the Hi, I'm Daisy comics from way back.
Yeah.
Like there's value in that stuff, and it works in its place where it works. But I feel like they just kind of threw it in there and then didn't do enough to make it worth putting time into, and then also gave way too much time to it.
Yeah. It's the classic platformers discussion point, which is like, if your game is open world, does it need to be? Like, if your game has social links in it, does it need to actually? Yeah.
This could have been the same exact game without that stuff.
Yeah.
Probably better.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's the 100 line.
I do want to try it. It sounds insane.
It's fascinating.
It sounds interesting. Kris, tell me about Blueprints.
Oh boy. So what if we took Lorelei and the Laser Eyes and made it a roguelike? Blueprints.
Oh no, Will is gonna spontaneously combust. We can't do this.
But in this case, rightly so, because I think I've been going back and forth, and you may have seen friend of the show, Adele Harmon Jr. has been having conversations with me in our mutual Discord about this game and back and forth. And it's really making me question, the roguelike and the RNG necessity of this game, because like I went through the game.
Nothing needs to be a roguelike.
He's been going through it, yeah.
Make an actual progression system.
I cannot overstate just how RNG screwed this man got. There is no reason he has not hit credits by now.
Yeah, that man needs to go to church.
Straight up.
What he was describing was a curse.
When he was finally on par to actually get a winning run, his PlayStation crashed.
Yeah.
They need what they need to do is they need to bring in an exorcist is what they need.
Yeah, but shout out to Adele. But yeah, it's just, this is a really good game. So again, the best way to describe it is, what if we took Lorelei and made it roguelike? And that kind of works, but again, I'm still back and forth and on the fence about whether or not the RNG is a good system, because any kind of, gambler's fallacy may add to, this run went pretty well or whatever. But there's a couple of points in that. Let's say in a traditional roguelike, let's use Hades. It's the big one everyone knows, right? What happens in Hades if you get a bad run? You're still playing Hades. You still have the combat system, you still have the weapons, you can still make meta progression or whatever.
Yeah.
In Blueprints, what happens if you get a bad run? Fucking nothing. You're walking around, you're looking at stuff, you're trying to piece together puzzle clues which you may not even have found, or you may have, worse, found, solved, and then cannot get the room to appear that you need to solve it in. So your progress or thing is hindered and reliant on RNG.
Kind of miserable, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and there are ways to combat it. Like because the gimmick is like you're in a mansion that every day it changes its layout, and every room you go to, when you open the door, you draft from a number of blueprints, hence the name, that determine what is in that room. So, for example, you may get the billiards room, which will have, it will always have specific arrangement of doors that can lead further into this 5x9 grid of a mansion. It will always have a puzzle which you can solve for certain rewards and things like that. And it may have a few other little things. And so you just go, okay, so I want to do this, and then I want to go, that's a room I can get, or it could be something else. It could be a dead end. It could be something else entirely. But each of these rooms can have different documents, which can be clues. They can have further clues and information needed to solve puzzles. They can have further puzzles that actually need to be solved, but the clues are elsewhere. And other times it can give you, just straight up tell you, like, answer puzzles and things that may be more difficult in some of the rarer rooms, except it's RNG whether or not you get those rooms. You may figure out, oh yeah, here is how you game the system a bit in terms of where you place the rooms in order to get certain rooms more often. But that itself may be a hint you never get. This is all RNG. So it sounds bad, and I'm still, again, back and forth on the RNG thing, but this is a really fucking good game beyond all that. It does have a compelling hook. It has great atmosphere, great vibes. The puzzles are pretty interesting, fun to solve, and it keeps finding ways to peel back bigger meta puzzles and go, oh yeah, you know that thing that you may have noticed in a couple of rooms? Possibly. Yeah, it's actually majorly important. And you may have figured out that it was majorly important, but no, there's also another thing that you find out way after the fact that is also majorly important and you didn't notice. And it's like, so just, expanding brain meme a lot. And it is a really cool game to just, sit down and unpack and explore and figure out more of its mysteries. And you don't need to solve all of them in order to effectively hit credits and reach the ending. I didn't. I did not get nearly as far as Odell did, but I finished the game, air quote finished, and he did not. So
crazy.
Yeah. So it really feels like this might be the game of the year, or it might be a game that you fucking hate. It's a roll of the dice. Good luck.
Yeah. Solid Snake 120 in the chat says, just looking at the art style and vibes, they should make a Betrayal at the House on the Hill sort of game like this.
100%. That is almost certainly the inspiration. You draft rooms and build the mansion's layout in a very similar way. Yeah.
I was going to say, this sounds like Betrayal, except you can
100%.
for no reason.
I know what that is. So now I can kind of...
It's a lot easier to visualize, yeah.
Yeah.
Every time someone describes blueprints, I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I don't think so.
But this is why
I was like, I know the answer to this puzzle, and then I just didn't get the fucking room, I would be apoplectic.
He would have an aneurysm.
You're not the only one. Every negative review, pretty much, of the game on Steam and everywhere I've seen is basically that. But then you have other people who say this is a masterclass. This is a brilliant game. This is one of the best games ever. I think Jason Schreier was talking it up. And it's like... And then there's me, who is somewhere in between that. But the whole time I'm going through, I'm just like... Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is right there. It's a very similar vibe. Very similar kind of atmosphere. No, it's not. And that's why it comes to mind, because it's the comparison point. Because if I can't solve a puzzle in that, I know where it is, and I know I can get back to it when I have the clues needed to solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
Roguelike should be considered a government warning required by law, similar to the Ubisoft and EA logos.
They should post like a little cross section of your brain that is, on the box. It's like, warning, this is your brain on blueprints.
This game is known to the state of California to cause roguelikes.
Yes.
No, do you hate having your time wasted? Don't play this.
The problem with blueprints is it might not be roguelike enough. It sounds like it's roguelite, but it just takes the RNG. Like there are plenty of roguelikes that have real progression, and the progression isn't like, you don't lose progression because there's not a section of the bridge is gone and it's the only way to the other side, right? Like,
right. It's usually because
caves is a good example.
Yeah, I was like, we keep having these like weirdly perfect segues, which is I'm big into. But
yeah, so just to before we segue into said games, I'll just touch up again. Blueprints, really cool game, cool atmosphere, cool ideas. But I'm going to recommend you towards Lorelei and the Laser Eyes instead, because if you fuck up in that game, it's because you can't figure it out. It's not because you figured it out and then the game just hates you.
Yeah.
Wait, real quick before we transition.
Sure.
What is the fail state in this game? Like, are things killing you? Or
No, there's no combat, there's no monsters, but you have a certain amount of steps, which is basically the amount. Every time you enter a room, it counts down a step.
Okay.
And so backtracking, like through your mansion, because you made a weird layout or whatever, takes a lot of steps. and you can replenish this through certain rooms. You can find pickups like fruit or whatever. You just eat that and get a few steps. But that's basically it. It's just you proceed through that until you are exhausted for the day and have to end the day. Or you reach a dead end, can figure out nothing more, and you go, cool, I'm done for the day. And that's it. That's your fail state.
I hate it.
But there is no hard fail state. You can play it as long as you need. Like
it's a combination of like you have a step tracker like on your wrist, but it's like that movie with Justin Timberlake where like everybody's lives are counting down minutes
in time.
Like,
yeah.
But it's the step counter that does that.
What a crazy reference for the worst movie ever.
Well, I'm glad that I was able to shock and delight you with that one. Yeah.
It's something. You were saying something, Lucas?
It's a time limit, and what kills you is like taking a wrong turn or getting into a dead end or just
basically.
That's the I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yeah, you'll never die. There's no monsters tracking you. There's nothing like that. It's just a case of you eventually. It's like I've been trekking around this fucking mansion like 3 times over. I'm fucking tired. I'm going back and having a nap. And that's your fail state.
A game that mechanically punishes you for having a bad sense of direction. Crazy. Crazy.
I know a game like that.
Yeah.
I know a game like that gives you just will just randomly give you a bad sense of direction.
Mechanically, yes. I love it.
So we're teasing this. Let's just segue into it.
Let's do it. So I've been
playing. That was Blueprints, everybody.
Yeah, that was Blueprints. Jarrett and I don't know if anybody else here has been. Oh yeah, I guess Kris has been playing a little bit of it. We've been playing I've been calling it Caves of Cud. I don't know. It might be Cud.
Cud
Caves
is
of Chud.
What's his name?
Caves of Quid. We're all English now.
It's a 2-man team that developed this, and they call it Cud. So
okay,
that's what I'm gonna go with.
Cool. Yeah. So Caves of Qud. This is, say it with me, Will. A roguelike.
Like.
Yep.
I'm gonna go kill myself, I think.
But this is a roguelike.
You guys have a great show.
Yeah, he's gonna go throw himself into the sea.
You might like this one. This is an actual inspired by Rogue.
Yes, this is actually a rogue like, meaning like no the old game Rogue.
The definition of the fucking word.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Crazy.
Yeah. Finally,
this one earns the name. Yes. And because of that, the reception from myself and the larger community is very positive.
You don't have to call Jarrett the larger community.
I mean, he's taller than me.
It's me.
What am I supposed to say?
I'm the larger community. I'm large.
I mean, Jarrett's a big guy, but you don't have to call him that.
We hung out in Boston. You saw how tall he was. He's a grand man.
How dare they? Caves is in that same lineage of, I say lineage, just like a very small lineage of games made to seem older than they are on purpose, but also by accident because they're being developed with like very low tech in the first place.
Yeah.
So the aesthetic is actually part of the necessity. It lives in the same space as Dwarf Fortress. In like a very crunchy OSR, like if you like numbers, because I got some numbers for you.
Yeah.
You got numbers, you will use your entire keyboard for hotkeys.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They take 2 different perspectives, but have the same sort of philosophy, which is the player's interaction as a character or in this game, kind of asking a question, how do they interact with history in the present if that history is like procedurally generated? So
you're procedurally generated, Jarrett, and you look great.
Yeah, I wake up every day different. Sometimes there's a bomb in my pocket. Who knows? I think it happens.
Some days
or maybe you're happy to, or maybe you're just some days you're happy to see us. Who knows?
Yeah, who can say? They both start before when you make your situations. Well, Dwarf Fortress is like a town simulator, basically, except as many towns that can be as big as the entire world.
Are you saying that you're making a dwarf fortress?
Some might say.
Crazy.
The irony about Dwarf Fortress is you rarely start in a fortress, but the goal is the fortress. Where Caves of Kiddish, you play one guy in a bigger world. But when you roll these characters or roll these states, the game creates an entire history for this world up until that point first. So and something like Dwarf, every single dwarf has a history. It has a birth date, has a favorite color, it has friends and enemies, it has things it likes to do. And they all interact with each other autonomously, and they kind of make the drama by existing. In this game, in Caves, the history of the world, there's like two sort of versions of the history that gets written every time. There's like the version that is linear and kind of largely the same every time about one particular sort of old Shah or whatever who was the last sultan before the apocalypse, and then a bunch of other like ancillary sultans who are randomly generated every time. Then all these towns that are the same towns get repopulated with slightly different histories. The people inside those towns, there are like NPCs that are the same, but their relationships with each other might change every time you roll. For example, there's a quest giver in the first town called Yappa. He's the guy you talk to first, basically, to get your first quest. It should happen the same way every time. Occasionally,
hasn't happened that way yet.
I've talked to his name is Mehmet. I've talked to him about getting my quests, and then walk away to talk to somebody else who I know is going to give me my second quest. And on my way to him, he is passing me to go kill Mehmet because they don't like each other. I don't know why they don't like each other, but their histories have been written that they are like different factions and they fucking hate each other. They just happen to live here.
Yeah.
And Argive, the guy who's the tinkerer who I was going to go talk to, hates him so much he left his house to go kill him in the street right now. Which kind of fucks up that entire quest if he's dead because he can't turn it into him.
Yep.
And that's just how this game started for me. I was 10 minutes in.
He's just like me for real.
One other time I've loaded in, he had a grenade in his pocket, like a grenade that makes a like a black hole, and it was activated, and I didn't know. So I'm walking around doing my shit. I think 50 steps later, it explodes. The town is cratered basically. So nothing. I can't do anything in Joppa anymore because he was his history brought him that grenade and the death of like 10 or 15 people.
So what if Fallout Nuketown happened, but it happened because of somebody else doing something?
Right. Somebody in Nuketown was like, you know what? Fuck this town.
Yes.
And you don't know him. He doesn't know you because you just got here.
Yep.
So either you talk to him by chance and talk him out of it, or you missed that opportunity and he blew the town up. And that's just how it is.
Yeah. It's awesome.
This happens everywhere. Every interaction can be something like this. There are reliable characters who are going to do reliable things, and everything else is kind of like up in the air. Things get like Dwarf Fortress. Things get more dangerous the deeper you go. So like the caves part is literal. Like lots of life has been driven underground because for so long life on the surface was fucked up. Humans don't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
The ones that exist have like been heavily modified by machines that keep them alive. They are clearly post-human, but they consider themselves the real humans. Everybody else is some sort of mutant in some way. Either
they call themselves
fish
true
that can walk and talk. You have several legs now where arms used to be. What this creates is like your character can have 7 bajillion different configurations because of all the mutations you can have. But also,
the character creation
everybody is an NPC. If you're in the jungle and see some baboons, if they don't fucking try to kill you, you can maybe talk to them. They might have something. They might want to chat. Who knows?
You can initiate trade with a cat in a cave that you find, or a
doesn't have
if you
usually.
If you kill baboons and it turns out like there's a faction of baboons, like you are lowering your rep with the baboons, and you don't know who else loves the baboon faction. So like, you might go to a town you go to every run, but this time the town chief really fucks with baboons, and
So
you are not
killed all the
you're
baboons,
not
man.
out
What
here.
the fuck?
Yeah,
we're talking about stories about like the first thing that happened when I first met Mehmet and Joppa. The first thing that I did was perform the water ritual with him. What I didn't know was dogs.
Is that what the kids are calling it these days?
Dogs do not fuck with Mehmet. And so when I ran into a bunch of dogs who I guess in my like history, I was like loved by dogs because of some shit I did in the past. And I was even welcome in their holy places. Now all of a sudden, because I performed the water ritual with Mehmet, I lost like, and I was unfriendly with like every other faction already. Like dogs were the one people who were like, we got this dude's back. And now it's like, okay, now I have no allies anywhere because I just was experimenting and performed the water ritual, you know, with this guy who was just hated.
Think of water like water in Dune, where it is currency. Like
it is
water
literally
is so
your
precious
currency,
here.
and
You have to drink it to stay alive, and you spend it like money. So, like doing a water ritual, you only share 1 dram, but that is like an expression of wanting to be closer than just passing allies. You want to be homies. Mechanically, it means you raise your rep with that guy and whatever rep he has, but also you can then learn things from him if you have enough rep with them. So, some guys might teach you stuff you don't know, like skills. One guy, high enough rep, some people might have be able to find locations like ruins or whatever on the map for you, or just raise your rep enough where like knowing if you know you're going to some place where this particular faction does not like outsiders. Maybe if you're high enough rep with somebody outside of there, you can like give yourself a shot at safety or whatever.
Yeah.
Ultimately, this is an RPG that is like very crunchy as far as character creation and like stats and builds and stuff, but it's also super duper interested in the procedural generation of history. It reminds me of one of my favorite games, which is very like a small game that's like web-based called Epitaph. That is just like a running ticker of history of a civilization it just makes up. Every couple of seconds, you'll see like a timer that is like the year of this civilization. Every couple years, another paragraph will like proceed to like another sort of piece of this history. So like, I don't know, we first became aware of the Jigglypuffs in year 3000. They're on an overgrown planet. They like eating mushrooms.
They ruined all of our Smash Brothers tournaments. It was terrible.
The next paragraph will be like, we should teach them. You are like the Federation in Star Trek watching these civilizations and deciding if you're going to interfere with them or not. You can teach them metalwork and then see what happens after that. And then it'll be like, the Jigglypuffs have learned how to make tools and weapons, and they've gotten really good at digging holes. So now they become a subterranean species, and now they really like the mushrooms down there. But they're now fighting over the mushrooms with the weapons they made. What do we do? Teach them astronomy. They've returned to the surface to look at the stars, and now they're trying to chart. They learned constellations, but I think they've noticed us. Now they're worshiping us like gods. What do we do? Like, just really interested in interacting with history as players in the same way we do people in the real life. Like, everything we are doing right now is because of things that happened an hour before. Even if it's subtle and insignificant, it can be more significant than that. If my chair was broken, I can't sit in it in front of you in front of this camera right now. That kind of stuff. That you really like. It's not a game you can turn on Twitch and watch somebody play and be enthralled with, because it just does not look like a game that can be that captivating. But it certainly is a game when you're playing it that certainly can be.
I think one of the ways that this comes across the most, and the way that kind of appealed to me first, is, you talked about it being very crunchy and systems based, which is true. I also find it to be very crunchy, like visually, like this old blocky style of like almost. It's not ASCII art, but it's like almost.
So the launch version isn't, but it used to be.
Yeah.
And it's its
Much like Dwarf Force.
transition to this engine, they kind of changed it out of ASCII because you couldn't do ASCII and not Unreal. What's the other one that everything that all the indie games are on? Unity. Yeah, you can't do ASCII in Unity, so they kind of made assets that look like ASCII to invoke that same thing, but it does have an ASCII lineage.
Yes. But one of the things that I like is as you're moving around, you've got the kind of left corner of your field, which is like, this is you actually physically moving around in the world. And then on the right, you can have, it'll list like nearby items and stuff. And different things like that. But if you move your right analog stick or whatever around, everything you look at, you can click on and like look at in quotes, and it'll have like a little blurb about them. When you click over somebody, you've got all these like classic RPG things, or like even like D&D, where you're just like, okay, I look around the room, what do I see? Like you hover over the person and it's like, look at this person, and it'll tell you a little bit about their history. And it's really like those descriptions are kind of tantalizing.
Evocative.
Yeah, they are evocative. And
that was one of the first things I noticed. It's like, damn, the prose in this game is kind of neat.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And that was kind of what drew me in. And, I like the first quest that they task you with is like, hey, something's messing up with our crops. Like, can you go figure out what the hell is going on? And I just finished that for the first time yesterday because I got lost underground. Speaking of things getting dangerous, the deeper down you go, I got lost and went from level 4 to like level 11, and then got into such a point where like I was either gonna die or like never get out of these caves. Because I think I got down to like strata 6 or something. And
I am the crab people now.
I straight up could not find the way up. Like I was like, I don't remember how I got here. And I could not find my way out. So I was just like, all right, I guess I'm just going to start a new game. And like in my own mind, like, even though he didn't die, like that last character I was playing as just got lost down in the caves and couldn't find his way out, and that sort of stuff.
I haven't even gotten that far. I usually die well before that. I have not even come close to finishing that quest yet.
I redid the tutorial because I played the game for like 10 hours or something like that. And I straight up forgot you can just press up and go like to the overworld map. I forgot the overworld map existed. So I'd just been walking screen to screen for ages.
Oh God.
You don't have to
hate to see it, but you expect to see it.
No. Well, I mean, there's so much that happens. It's like I just forgot. I stopped for a day or so.
It succeeds on a level of being like a really dense sort of RPG for people who like that kind of shit, but also like a really interesting experiment, or not even an experiment, sort of like a narrative about narratives. Like stories are like the highest form of currency in this place. Like all the rumors you learn by looking at old religious statues and all the information you can gather about the old sultans, books you find, all are like some of the most valuable things you could trade with other people in this game. So you are like a lore hunter as much as a survivor in the wilderness, and I find that to be not many games make that like the crux of sort of the motivating sort of drive for you to be a hero. And I think that's interesting when a game nails it kind of so, I guess, presciently. I think if that's another thing it shares with Dwarf Fortress, where like there's a whole kind of genre of content with Dwarf Fortress of people just telling the stories of their playthroughs.
Yeah.
Which is a thing
Shout out
that
to Boat
happens a lot.
Murdered.
Yeah.
So cool.
It happens a lot with CUD as well. People kind of narrativizing their like very fucking wacky playthroughs.
Yeah.
A kind of thing you wouldn't really. It's like the opposite of like any other game, or like whenever someone sits to tell you about what all the cool things happening in their D&D game, you're like, well, the 4 other people at your table had a really cool experience that you really love, but like the way you're explaining it to me right now is not working for me. I wasn't there. I guess I had to be there to get this connection you're having. This game facilitates that kind of conversation in a way that is super unique to both like RPGs in general, but like any game that's attempted to be this big of an RPG, like hard RPG.
Whoa.
It's a really cool. It's a thing you're never gonna. They don't make them like this on purpose, and they're not gonna. So, and this game's gonna be around. It was started developing in the Obama administration, like, and only just went 1.0 like 5-6 months ago or whatever. So
yeah, I've seen videos about it years and years ago.
It's gonna be around forever.
It's really cool, and it's the type of game where like you could make a lot of modules and expansions and stuff like that, and that it's already set up to do that. One of the things I wanted to mention is you talked about this being a game that is about kind of sharing stories and being kind of a cultivator of lore or history. One thing I like, and which is a pitfall that this game does not fall into, that a lot of other I feel would be very easy and common mistake to make, is making the player jump through a lot of hoops to get to that part of it. But there are 3 different difficulty levels, and one is just like you don't get experience from combat. Most like creatures are neutral to you, and you get a lot of your experience from just exploration and learning new things. So it's like if you want to just do that, there's like a whole mode where you can just be that guy. Just go around. It's not so much like this world is crazy dangerous. It's more like just explore and just see what's going on, which I think is awesome.
Yeah,
it's super cool. Certainly a good option, especially they spent so much time building this half. Like, it's cool to just be able to look at it.
Yeah.
I think, me personally, I'm always like the story is more valuable when someone could pull a knife on me for it. So I'd rather keep like the classic mode.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that its development in the past 15 or so years has like brought it to an understanding that like people should just see like all the cool shit we've done without having like to die over it.
Yeah. Which is
they got nominated for a Hugo actually, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
That's the removing or like tearing down the barriers between the player and the art is something that I really wish that more games would do, which is another bizarre tie that this has to Assassin's Creed, with like their educational modes that they have in those games, where it's just like, yeah, go look, there's the pyramids, like check them out, which I think is fantastic.
There's a lot of that in Shadows where they're like, you see this temple? Here's like 1,500 words about this fucking temple.
Sick. I love it.
Yeah.
So cool.
I appreciate that it's there for sure.
Yeah.
That's
Will,
caves
you still with us?
I'm sleepy.
Will is just, he's receding slowly into the background until he disappears.
I didn't want you guys to listen to me like crinkling this bag of popcorn.
Oh, it's all good.
That's fair.
It's all good.
So, I have my headset on. I can't really contribute to this conversation anyway, except to make the odd joke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's okay.
Well, all you need to do is be on camera and look pretty. So you're already accomplishing that.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.
Yeah,
Caves of Cud. Good. Fun. Very weird.
Older than dirt, apparently.
You will die. You will die a lot.
You will die a lot.
Losing is fun.
You will die by being attacked by a crab or a vine or a baboon or a weird wolf man or just like bleeding to death or somebody exploding a black hole.
Or you'll get lit on fire like I was last time I died, where I was underground, so there was no wind to blow it out. So I just
some of
burned
those
to
things
death.
are hot, and some of them are just unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing, so I was playing my last life. I was playing a Marsh Tour, which doesn't mean anything to most of the people in the world, but
I'm smiling and nodding. I get.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I have pretty good regen if I'm walking around. I stepped on something, and started bleeding, and I was already at 2 health. But there were no enemies around. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to heal up from this last combat encounter by walking back and forth. No, I bled to death.
Well, first time I attempted the first quest, I load in and there are 6 angry baboons in eyesight And that's just the ones in eyesight, because there are a lot more.
Oh yeah.
Bro, what is it with you guys and the baboons?
There's
This is what happened to me, man.
there's a
The
lot.
marsh you start in
They
is
threw
next
shit at
to
me.
the edge of a jungle where their baboons are. And baboons will just throw rocks at you from off screen.
Yep.
Like you'll see the rock hit a tree
And they'll
and like
chase
fall,
you.
and you're like,
Yeah.
fuck.
It sounds like the monkeys have inherited the earth.
They've inherited that patch of jungle for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I tell you there's like 30 on one screen, like there's a lot. There's a lot of them.
That's a lot of baboons.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
That and like the
One might
kobold
say
guys.
that could be too many baboons.
20 to 50 feral baboons.
I was about to say,
A small baboon
Imagine
the
if-
size of a large baboon.
In the first Final Fantasy, if the imps were lethal, that's what's going on here.
Oh,
no.
God. Yeah.
Yeah.
If the imps could kill you, this is what's happening here.
all I'm hearing is, what if the cuckoos from Zelda when they're pissed, but monkeys?
Basically.
Basically, that
Yeah,
too.
basically. Yeah.
Anyways, Caves of Cud.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Good game.
Are we sure that that is the correct pronunciation?
Yes.
Jared
That
said
is how the
devs
devs
said
refer
it, yeah.
to it.
Okay, but the guy who created GIFs pronounces it GIF.
That's true, and he is wrong.
Right, but he's the only person who I'm going to let say that. Everyone else has to not say that.
Yeah.
But if he asked me, am I saying it right? I'm like, yeah, you made it obvious.
Rejected it.
Yeah.
Right. My point is, sometimes the creators of things can be wrong, and specifically in the case of the man who created GIFs, he is never seeing heaven.
Yes, it's true.
That's true.
He's going.
He's the wrongest.
believe it or not, straight to hell.
He's not even going to hell. He's going to walk this earth a ghoul forever.
He is going to have to walk the earth until he learns to pronounce it properly.
As penance.
So that the cry of every babe who screams, "Dear God, what is that thing?" will echo in his perfect ears. That is what To the Pain means. Speaking of that, we just watched that movie with my daughter for the very first time. She fucking loves it.
As she should.
what's up?
Bride is amazing.
She continues to have just the best taste, except when it comes to fighting game characters, because she's playing fucking zoners and grapplers. I can't. But
This is how you know she's a degenerate.
It's true. It's true.
That your daughter embraced cheese.
Degenerate.
Do you know this, Jarrett? Do you know my daughter in Street Fighter plays Dalsum, and in Guilty Gear she plays Potemkin. Like, she's a degenerate.
Potemkin's a real one though.
That's true. He is.
Your daughter might be a real one.
I mean,
Potemkin is cool.
yeah, she is.
Yeah.
If she was like, I'm playing Testament, I'd be like, all right, maybe you're a degenerate.
If she was playing Axel, thank God she's not an Axel player. Jesus Christ.
When I see the stick slide over, she hovers over Potemkin. I'm like,
Yeah.
The
That
only
is a
thing
good
that
point.
tells me about her is that A, she has taste, and B, she's a glue eater.
Which,
listen,
I mean, yeah,
sometimes the glue gives you powers.
it's true. She
You're
believes.
a Potemkin player being like, listen, I don't want to hear you talk about eating glue this way. There are dozens of us.
You will not denigrate my fellow glue eaters in this manner.
Listen, I have 99 seconds to hate you at the 75%. I don't know what else to say to you.
All I have to do is eat glue once. You have to eat glue several times to beat me.
Right.
Look what they need to mimic a fraction of my heavenly pot buster.
Oh, man.
That move is vicious. Because you get to watch
Beautiful.
it. It's so fucking cool. And then you're like,
It's
Yeah.
so cool. And
oh
then
man,
your health
3/4
just
of my health
goes.
is about to go away.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. Anyways, I know we've been going for a little bit over 2 hours. We do have some stuff like Lunar, or I think there was something else Kris had. Do we want to do that next time, or do we want to get to
What
some
I
stuff
have
now?
is the same thing you have. We should probably push that back a week. Gives me time to finish the campaigns properly anyway.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Okay. Is there anything else?
Tempest Rising is out and it's good.
Yes.
More later.
Yeah, Kris and I have we've already said this, but yeah, Tempest Rising is the real
Command and Conquer 4.
Command and Conquer 4. Yeah. It's real good. It's real good.
It's real good.
Is there anything else we need to get to before we dip out of here, or shall we just adjourn
grades.
for the week?
Snap grades real quick, and then we can adjourn.
Snap
I want
grades.
snap grades. I do not want an explanation.
All right.
So for Luna, I guess, or
No. This is for Tempest Rising. With 0 being the Kennedy assassination, and 10 being StarCraft. What is Tempest Rising?
7 or 8.
Yeah, I would say 8.
Okay. So like Halo Wars.
Oh no, then 9.
Yeah, above that.
So Command and Conquer 2.
Basically.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Built in the modern era.
Yeah.
I feel like the Kennedy assassination wouldn't be my 0, or wouldn't be my
your 0.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I thought he was going a different direction with that thing. I thought he was going to be like, 0 is the Kennedy assassination and 10 is spies. You know.
I feel like Watergate is lower, right? Like,
I don't know. I feel like the Kennedy assassination probably had a worse long-term effect on the country.
Yeah.
Maybe the Kennedy assassination
selling bombs to what would be Al Qaeda. That might be.
How about
Reagan
0
assassination? Not
either Reagan attempted assassination.
How about 0 is Reagan gets elected and 10 is StarCraft. No, 0 is Reagan getting elected and 10 is Tim Curry live action saying space.
Nice.
I feel better about that one.
There's got to be a worse political thing in like the last 50 years than Reagan getting elected.
Oh man, really? Are you sure?
I don't know. I feel like it's worse than
that is the cause of so many fucking problems.
In fairness, I feel like we could trace every problem.
The Bay of Pigs is pretty bad.
Back to Ronald Reagan as president.
Yeah, exactly.
You can go back further than that if you really wanted.
You could go back further to Nancy Reagan is born. You know, you could do that if you wanted.
How dare you speak of the throat goat this way?
Yeah, there's a lot of people on various Hollywood studios that disagree.
I was about to say, yeah,
I'm sure.
Frank Sinatra does not agree with you.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's a lot of shit that I don't agree with Frank Sinatra about too. Not just
probably
that.
Probably the existence of black people.
Yeah, yeah.
It's probably a start.
He didn't believe in black people?
Oh, he certainly believed in them. Did he believe they should be in the same restaurant?
Did they believe they should be?
While he's trying to drink these vodkas? Probably not.
Did they believe he should be in the same Rat Pack with them? I don't know.
Yeah, who can say? I mean, Sammy was Jewish, and maybe he got over it. He had like a nice little perm, so like I don't know, maybe he just looked past it.
I feel like the train of thought that has led us to this place is remarkable. It should be preserved in the Smithsonian.
It should be.
So we started talking about Tempest Rising.
Yep.
And then we started talking about the Kennedy assassination.
And then we're talking about how racist Frank Sinatra is and Sammy Davis Jr.'s perm, which is just incredible. I love it. This is, by the way, this episode is a perfect encapsulation of the Platformers podcast. We started talking about tournaments in Riyadh and human rights violations, and we ended up talking about Sammy Davis Jr.'s hair and Tim Curry talking about space in Command and Conquer.
Nancy Reagan, the throat goat.
And Nancy Reagan, the throat goat. I mean, this is what you come here for. This is why this is the single greatest games podcast to ever be created.
To ever be created.
It's true. We should probably end the episode on this then.
Yes, I was about to say we can't segue into another game discussion after this. We have to leave.
Sorry, Lucas. I want to hear about Luna another day.
Yeah,
this is the thing that we cannot come back from.
Yes.
Once you've invoked Nancy Reagan, the only way the thing left to do is finish. You know what I'm saying?
The only way to dig ourselves out is to go down. We have to go deeper. Oh, which is what they said.
Much like Caves of Cod.
Yeah.
Damn it.
It's a poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah. Oh my god. Turns out this was the real.
I'm glad we did so much character building today.
It's true. It's true. This was the real
we have
Phantom
clarity
Menace.
and unity of vision.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One vision, one purpose, like I started with.
Thank you all for joining us for the platformers this week. If you like the show for some reason, tell somebody about it. Leave us a review. You know, all that sort of stuff. We love talking to you guys, so come join us. I'm on Blue Sky and Backlogged at Brian Barnett, BrianBarnett, and Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube at Ribnax, Ribnax. We stream the episodes live on Twitch, and then they go up as VODs on YouTube. And if you want to see what I am doing, you can check out my preview for Rematch on IGN, which is the new soccer game from Slow Clap, the people who made Sifu. It's fun. I'm excited to see if the bugs get patched out, and yeah, should be a fun time. It's really fun to play. And you can also check out my Marvel Rivals guides and other guides on Kotaku. Kris, what do you have going on?
Hey, not a hell of a lot, but I'm Kris Cornelius. I usually go around the internet as Delfeir, Delfeir. My website can be found at versusthebacklog.com. That's vsthebacklog.com as one word. Still not a lot there. Still stuff in the works, both there and elsewhere, hopefully coming up very soon. Stay tuned. How about you, Lucas? Rather.
Oh,
no.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. I didn't feel important today. It's all fine. It only hurts my soul. Hi, I'm Will Berger. If you'd like to see what I'm doing, if you'd like to read my review of Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, that's over on Digital Trends. You can also find me at IGN, Shack News, and wherever you can read fine writing about video games. If you'd like to chat with me on social media, you can find me on Blue Sky at Edgar Allan Bro, same handle on Backlog. Tell me about your own personal throat goat, but maybe don't. Lucas, where can I find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky as Hokuto Lucas. You can find my writing, which includes a review for 100 Line, Lunar Remastered, and probably something I've already forgotten about, at shacknews.com. And I write about Fortnite and Minecraft for restart.run.
And you can tell he's very excited about that.
Yeah,
it pays the bill.
Pretty much it do pay the bills.
Jarrett, good son.
You can find me not on the internet, but on the notes of your favorite blues song as it pierces the veil like a griot between the world of the living and the world of the dead. If you are not in touch with your spiritual side, then I guess you're going to have to go on the internet. You're going to have to find me at Blue Sky at Jarrett John, or just log in to IGN.com. Chances are I've written something that you don't agree with. That's fine, though. Just don't tell me about it. Keep that to yourself. Journal about it. Don't let me know. If you do like it, then absolutely let me know and tell your friend.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jarrett, for being with us on another episode. It's always so awesome to have you around.
Anytime we can talk about the most obscure fucking bullshit, I'm probably here for it. So
we have a lot of obscure bullshit we talk about, so you're always welcome.
It's true. It's true. Also, before we sign off, you said hit me up on social media to talk about your own personal throat goat. And when you said your own personal throat goat, all I could think of is, can I talk to you for a moment about Jesus Christ and welcoming him into your heart as your own personal throat goat? Which feels very appropriate because it's just been Easter. But anyways.
You couldn't even wait 48 hours to blaspheme?
I couldn't.
He has risen, if you know what I'm saying.
He has risen indeed.
God be praised. Anyway.
Straight to hell, every one of us.
Yep. Hey.
We'll have so much fun on the way down.
Absolutely.
From From everybody here at the Platformers, we hope you have a wonderful week and stay safe out there, because until next time, we are out.
Peace.
Peace.